What do you mean? Say what again?
Just can you would you mind giving us that intro to your channel?
Oh, yeah. Is it recording?
It is.
Okay, guys, my name is Maria Carm. I'm a Cardano ambassador, also a winner from Fund 1 and Fund 2, and I have a channel that called Maria Carm 369,
Yeah, I
where
figure out it.
I gather people that love Cardano. They love all the project and anything we have to say about Cardano. So any of you that has a proposal, Fund 4, Fund 5 or 6, or you would like to talk to the community about anything we are doing, you are very, very welcome.
And is there a
Look
schedule for that?
forward to it.
Sorry, what did you say?
What's your schedule for that?
I'm working on in the meantime for I'm looking sign up Genius to see how I can use it, but I'm pretty sure I could give like recording every day 2 new projects for Catalyst. I don't think I will have a time to get all of them, but if I start giving 2 3 hours every day, I can get loads of projects out there, and the community could actually make sense of it. Because I don't know if you realize, for normal people like me, I'm not an IT background, a video and a PDF presentations make a lot of us more sense than you just thinking about your own ideas in your head.
Yeah. And that's kind of the same purpose for this ad hoc circle here at 10 o'clock in the Cardano Catalyst Swarm. Eddie, welcome. And if you've made it to the Miro board, take a place at the circle and type your name in. Be glad to see you there. Or feel free to just follow along on the screen share. That works too.
Okay.
Dudi, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
1 minute, I still figure out.
Philip, tell us about yourself.
Hi, Randall. Yeah, my
I
name.
am.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
I helped Dudi to figure out how he get here, and we return 2 minutes.
Okay.
Were you confused on how to get to the Miro board specifically? Is that what you're saying?
Drake, you want like people to take a free place and write their names?
I'm not running this circle. Randall is.
Hey, we're all running the
Randall,
circle.
is that what you want?
We're all in it together here today. Who has a particular proposal that is interesting to them, whether you're proposing or whether it's a proposal that you've seen and you're just interested to talk about it?
Yeah, Dudi with me here.
Oh, sweet. Hey, guys.
Hey, nice to meet you. Oh.
I have a proposal. Well, the beginning of a proposal, working with a team from Croatia. It will probably be a proposal for a token that will be used as. We're not sure if we're gonna make it fungible or non-fungible, but basically it will be a digital signature and storing it on a Cardano blockchain. And right now the team consists of 2 people that work for IOG, 1 Cardano ambassador, his partner, and me. So I will be trying. The idea is still very, very raw, so we'll be trying to, through all the catalyst phases, in insight sharing, I will put up something, try to get feedback, see how the community feels about it, take that all back, and then try to find the simple solution, the simplest possible solution for the user, but that still adds value for the whole Cardano ecosystem. Because what we notice is that we really need to start bringing in people that that are not really interested in crypto, that are just interested in the use case. They just want to have something that they don't have so far, and they don't really care if it's on Cardano, Ethereum, or crypto or not crypto. So that's our goal. That's what we're gonna try to do.
Did I miss what the use cases were that was interesting to you? I see the notes Mike's taking, thanks, about having a token system. What's that enable for you in terms of use cases?
We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Exploration, maybe it's a good thing.
It is.
Yeah, we have, let's say, some contacts with some institutions. So maybe the institutions will be able to verify some diplomas or some course, you know, something similar, something simple, like you pass a course on something and then you have an NFT or maybe just a digital signature, maybe just a transaction and a metadata transaction, like Cardano wall, something like that. At least some confirmation that is simple but good enough that you can have, you know, full value from it, let's say.
Yeah,
I do believe they're doing something along those lines in the Itala integration, right? For
sorry,
degrees
Drake,
and the
I
like.
didn't get that.
I believe they're doing something akin to that in the Itala prison integration, but I'm not absolutely certain. I couldn't say absolutely.
The identity side, certainly, whether they're trying to include these sort of privacy-preserving digital certificates of having done something is a question for me, too. Is Atala trying to do that? Or is that a scope that's separate from Atala? There's really interesting things that you can do when some outside, some third-party entity is saying, yeah, Filip did our Haskell program and succeeded wildly, and here's the certificate that proves that. And here it is for you. And maybe it's an NFT in implementation, but what it is in functionality and use case is you get to carry that thing around and hand it to anybody, and they don't have to care what your name is. They have to care that your certificate has the kind of meaning that they need.
And once it becomes a standard, then it'll be an immutable thing that's always there and at fingers reach.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Atala is of course a very, you know, a big project and an ambitious project. What we're really trying to do is make a basic implementation of something that works, that maybe is not so, you know, huge or big deal, and then try to slowly build on it, build on it, build on it. But, you know, what I want is something that I can explain to my grandmother, right? I want something that I can say, look, if you use this, we're gonna have that. It's very simple, it's very basic, but we're gonna have that. And that costs that much, let's say, or you need to do that to have that. Just to start bridging that gap. Because if I start talking to my grandmother about decentralized, unmutable identity, of course, she's not gonna understand. But if I tell her, look, if you pass this course, then you get a certificate and no one can ever take it away from you, great, cool. She can get that.
Well, it's part of what I'm trying to do with the financial custodian is allow a web interface that will allow for an AI-guided, complete, idiot-proof system for transferring money internationally. And like you said, it needs to be to the least common denominator. It needs to be to an 80-year-old Filipino woman. Needs to be able to figure it out, you know?
Yeah, one of the interesting conversations I had with my mother and father when I was getting them into Cardano, when they were really all in, they got really all in. You know, they started talking about doing a reverse mortgage on their house to put more money into it. And the reason that they had talked about that was about 6 or 7 years ago. My mother's sister, who was quite a bit older than her, had gotten into a jam, and they had gotten a great deal for her with the reverse mortgage. And my mother had kind of negotiated that with the mortgage broker, and it was a really good deal. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced, any direct contact with somebody who'd gotten a good deal on a reverse mortgage, And so, of course, when they got really excited about getting into crypto back in the fall, they thought, well, we can just do that again. And man, the offers, I think they got 2 offers, and they were so shitty. I mean, they were so bad, that they just, they were
They
like,
tend
no
to be
way.
predatory.
Yeah. And so what I'm waiting on, in terms of like real use case for my mother is like, we can get a real NFT that represents their property and negotiate on the chain for some kind of reverse mortgage kind of deal for them. I don't think that they'll need that, but that possibility is out there. It's just, it's a matter of building it and working out the economics of it, as well as how do you represent real estate in an NFT in a way that's, has more than a collectible kind of worth.
Well, once we have interoperation with legacy systems, that's where it's really going to come into play. Whenever you can make a non-fungible token of any asset or any financial model and use that as representation to the outside world or to the internal world with dApps.
Right.
Yeah. I think with the smart contracts, loads of stuff gonna be easier for us to deploy than it have been, because not much things in the main net on the test net, but I think we will get there. I fully understand the importance of the titles of the land. For example, I'm in Dublin and I have to go for the mortgage because my landlord asked for the apartment. And if you go for rent again, I'm gonna pay a double. No negotiations, it's double. But then I start to negotiate a house that end up being 20% up in price because the market just dictated. You have go for a bid, and who bid highest won it. I got lucky this time. I got a house, but many people in Ireland doesn't have the same privilege. Like the privilege to have actually the money and to the opportunity to buy a house is ridiculous.
It's the same in the U.S. Like people who rent tend to pay twice what somebody who has a mortgage pays.
Yeah, somebody told me that only Manhattan, if I'm not mistaken, Manhattan and Dublin are the places in the globe that is like booming. Every market is going down, and our market is like up like 30%.
Well,
that's the thing when people. Sorry, go ahead.
Oops. No, I thought that conversation has come to a natural end. If it hasn't, let's keep that. Let's keep that going.
You just kept it going. Talk to us.
Okay.
Oh, merci.
Yeah.
Remember, I always wanted to be invited to Africa. Please make me the invitation. I want to go there for WADA and contribute with what you're doing. I love your work.
We will do that. Like our initial proposal, the Fund 2 proposal, and I think we captured it a little bit in Fund 3. That we're going to have, like a volunteer scheme whereby, until you have been to a place, you never really, like you can never conceptualize a place, right? So we can, like down the line, we can have this exchange program whereby we can, send.
Guys, I just saying that to Merci because I don't know if you realize I'm an immigrant. I live in Ireland, but I'm a Brazilian. So I go through of every single rules of the immigrants have to follow, right? And after going through that, if I want to be a volunteer, you have no idea the queue I have to go through. And by the way, I have to compete with people that have more qualification than me. And it's why I become an ambassador, because I was going sign up for these memberships for this thing to be a volunteer, and nothing worked out for me because I didn't have maybe the knowledge or maybe the curriculum they want. But it's work out of being ambassador. It's why I become ambassador, because I couldn't be a volunteer where I'm living now because maybe they don't see that I add any value. So I become an ambassador, and it's why I'm sitting here in this room with you. This is open possibilities.
Exactly. Like when it comes to decentralization, we make the rules, right? We write the rules as we go, and we can make it work for us. We don't have to, depend on anyone. We just do it ourselves. So, yeah, as we move towards sort of how maybe DAOs can look like on a network connection basis, we should be able to do some of these things whereby, we do whatever we want within the values that we have. If anybody is here, wants to know more about WADA, I've dropped in the link. As we all know, WADA is just very ambitious. We are trying to do a lot, and this is not something that we, like WADA is pushing. It's just that the opportunities are presenting themselves, and people are joining the alliance, and people want to do stuff. And we have been very much been welcomed within the Cardano community. Catalyst makes a lot of things possible, but we still have to operate within these challenge categories that are set. So for now, in order to keep ourselves going and to make sure that we're doing what we need to do, you can see from the link that I've shared, like we have WADA specific proposals, and then we also, and that's more to the right. And then we have sort of our partner proposals, people that have come to us and they're like, can you help us do the things that we want to do? And obviously, going forward, that's a big thing that we're going to do in terms of just bringing proposals in. So one thing that we're trying to do is that the West Africa Proposal Outreach. That's an event that we are hoping to run, and we're always hoping to get a few more people here to talk instead of always just me. But these things we plan it, and then it doesn't work out how we want it to work out. But the proposal
But it
outreach is
always
some.
works out.
It does. You are right. Those who are here are those that are supposed to be here, right?
Aye. Aye.
So with the West Africa Proposal Outreach, we are going to, like as I've said, it's just an outreach thing. July 24th and 25th. Actually, I'll be reaching out to some of you here, because like we need speakers and panel members for that event. The first day is going to be just general blockchain stuff, and then the second day is just going to be catalyst. What resources are available, how do how do proposers come in, and then how do they make their dreams come true, basically. We also, like we have the West Africa Dev Tools and Events, just what it sounds like, education, Haskell Plutus education and hackathons, the West Africa Catalyst onboarding. We just, like as we all know, when it comes to Africa, there's a lot of limitations, right? Like, everybody sees me everywhere. I do not pretend to speak for all of Africa. So one of the things that we're trying to do is to figure out a way to create that access, right? And in Fund 5, we have a big proposal, thanks to Steve. He's here. He sort of helped us with that proposal. Right now, I want to talk about the Fund 4 proposals, maybe in a later Swarm circle. We'll talk about the Fund 5 proposals. But basically, we just want to open up this conversation to as many people on the continent as possible, so that people can actually be able to come in and talk. And some of these people, like they see things from an African perspective in terms of being on the continent. And when we talk about the African perspective, we don't just talk about the people that's actually local to the continent. But people like me, people that know you sort of have experienced Africa, but they sort of also had the opportunity to experience the Western world, and they're sort of living two lives where they shuttle in between, say, a Western country and also Africa. Like what do people like that bring? Like such people, by and large, have been sort of marginalized in a way. But these are people that are really resourceful in terms of right now. They don't suffer from the access barriers that people on the continent necessarily suffer, but they are in close contact with people that are on the continent. So, how do we leverage that? These are people, like, they are relatively highly educated. They are relatively wealthy, and there's a lot that such people can actually contribute, and we do not, um, 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 you know. Or should I say, we want to, I want to frame it in a more positive way. We want to, as much as possible, be intentional in terms of how we bring those people into the conversation. And obviously, we have other, country specific, like in Cameroon, stuff that we want to do there, and also in DRC, stuff that we want to do there, as well as, as we all know, the Cardano Foundation put in a proposal. Yeah, it wasn't much, 50K.
Maybe this is my chance to.
Yeah,
Mercy, were you
Megan is here. Yeah, I was. Yeah,
Wait,
let me just
yeah,
talking. Megan is the expert. Thanks.
I just wanted to say hello, and then I'm going to turn my camera off, saving for bandwidth. And this is my first time in such a room, so I hope I don't do anything wrong here.
Be very welcome. You're really, really welcome. Any woman voice in all these rooms I've been in
Amen.
is very, very welcome. And I say it very clear and loud, and all the guys know, don't you guys? They are all laughing. Look at the smiles on their faces.
And here we don't make mistakes; we make happy accidents.
Oh, great. Yeah, I've done some Bob Ross in my days. So I'm part of WADA. Part of the internal operations. I'm also recently moved to Cameroon. So I've got a bucket full of stories related to that. But we were located in California, which is sort of my side, and then my husband Monfo, who's the developer, he's from Cameroon. So we're here now. We're opening up our Cameroon hub for WADA, and it's really exciting. I don't know if anyone has questions, or if I should
I'm really happy. No, I have no questions. The only thing I have, if you ever need help, please reach out to me. My dream is to come and travel and help countries like in Africa. And I really, really love Cameroons. I love them from football, how fight they are. They fight for every single minute in the pitch. And I really, really love them. I really.
That's awesome. Oh, hold on a second. Sorry.
Yeah. So whilst Megan is she'll come back right on. Any questions? Drake, I really like what you're doing with AI. I didn't know that you are an AI expert. Yesterday I was sort of reading through Discord, and I'm like, yeah, we need to link up with Drake at some point. So
well, I think it's all going to come Voltron at some point. We're all going to merge.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
Merci, could I ask you something? That's questions that come up a lot and everywhere.
Please.
People have been asking me how Cardano will help people in Africa if these people are not they are unbanked and they don't have cell phones or internet. Do we still help you? There is a way, a card or something.
Well, they're working on the mobile networks, and what I'm trying to do is going to hopefully integrate directly into payment services, which most of the unbanked have.
Yeah, and another thing too, Maria, is that sometimes we overestimate what we can do in a year. Like I'm trying to quote here, so if I don't get the words right, forgive me. and really underestimate what we can do in 10 years. Last week we had John T with us, and like what he said is very true. When we look at Africa, first of all, Africa is not a poor country. Africa is not poor. It's just mismanagement of resources, and a lot of things are changing, right? So sometimes, as John T said last week, like 2 years ago, the way that he saw, well, I haven't been to the DRC, but that's where he has been, and to Kenya. Like he said that within 2 years, the kind of things that have happened, it's just mind blowing, like things all of a sudden, there's nothing, and then all of a sudden there's a lot, right? And as we know, like when it comes to Africa, like Africa, it started with, it was like, there was cash, right? There was physical, right? And then it was a leapfrog, right, to cell phones and stuff. So in terms of cell phone technology, Maria, it's just very widespread in Africa, to tell you the truth. The challenges that we are facing that we can do something about, and that is, like Steve is very passionate about, that is, let's create access, let's do the hard work. It's a grunt work of electricity, internet. Let's create access in terms of, that space whereby people can come in and then get stuff done. If we watch the Africa special, I mean, that's a big part, like almost half that video was about infrastructure and access. And I think that once people begin to become more intentional about it, whether it's IoG, with their connections with World Mobile, whether it's what we are doing from a Catalyst perspective. Recently there was the Africa Free Trade Deal, like breaking barriers in terms of, let's just trade amongst, like amongst all these countries without the barriers of countries and policies and stuff like that. So a lot of things are happening. And sometimes, like we look at what we're doing, and it's just it's just so it's like a point in history where so many things are coming together to just make things possible, right? It's like what we're doing now is meant to be done now, and the resources are being provided. We still have to be intentional in terms of how we do stuff, but if we are intentional and we create the plans and we execute, things will happen. I get like this. Yeah, I get like this a lot. So I'm going to be.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Mercy.
Why don't we switch to Jakob?
All right. So then, thank you for the word, Randall. You asked me if I'm excited about proposals, and of course I'm excited about the proposals we handed in. So I'm here with George. And yeah, I'm speaking here from Germany, and I started to get more involved in Catalyst earlier this year. Was also a community advisor in Fund 4, and was thinking, okay, that yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of saw it, that it's kind of hard to get used to this whole onboarding process, to know the system, to be constantly overloaded with information through all the different channels, and knowing where to navigate, where to reach the right people, how to get a bit more established in the community. And this is why I thought about this problem, and then I looked what are their kind of proposals already there, and then I found George. And since then so he started to create a website, and I started helping him, and we made 4 proposals for a so-called project Catalyst website. And they aim to fulfill different needs that are in the community right now. So first thing would be to get to know the roles that are in the project Catalyst. So for example, community advisor, proposer, voter, and what kind of resources we already have. So we collected every resource sheet that we could find, official guides, and stuff that other community members already did and collected them, wrote an FAQ. I already spared that, for example, in a session beforehand here in Swarm, in the social resource circle. Then George already created a nice visual layout for all the calendar dates so that people who are in the system can see, oh, okay, right now we are in this phase, and have a quick overview. But also people who want to learn more. And then there are 2 other proposals that are linked to this website, which are trying to solve the problem to track project data. So basically, right now on IdeaScale, we only have the proposals, right? So we can see maybe if they got funded or not, but it's not a clear overview, and you have to really search in a dedicated way, and it's not so easy to navigate. So it would be great to have an overview where you can see, okay, so for example, there's the Water Alliance, and this is kind of the water project, and they have different proposals and these different funds, and they were proceeding according to their plan or not. And then you can see what got funded, what didn't get funded, and have a quick overview. You look for a topic. For example, you want to create a dApp, see if somebody was successful, and then, okay, these people did it. And then, and this is the next part, also implementing something that you can easier connect to other people who are open for collaboration or already did something in the system, so that you can say, okay, hey, I'm Jakob, I'm from Germany, I have skills in, I don't know, for example, software coding, or I'm a UX designer or whatever. And maybe I'm also a funder, and then people can see, okay, this is Jakob, maybe I can ask him about his proposal, or ask him if he wants to join a proposal. So to have a clear and easy overview about who is in the system, who wants to work together, the different projects, and also making the whole overview about the roles and what kind of resources there are easier. So we have a few proposals there. I'm not sure if I said everything correct, George. If I was wrong here or there, you should correct me.
I definitely said that was pretty good coverage. Yeah, so far with what we've got is I've kind of finished the community list a few weeks ago, made a start from that on some very cheap infrastructure for now. Some of the main problems that we've actually been having is kind of data access. So because it's been quite fast for IOG, they've not had time to do things like, for instance, on Cardano, you've got a glossary, but in Project Class 3, you don't have things like a glossary and all the terms to find out well in a single place. We don't have access to the IdeaScale data that's been sanitized, so there's no emails on private side, that part. Also kind of like easy programmatical access to the fund result data as well, instead of like some of the documents we have, which has kind of been a stopping point for some of the things I've been working on. So some of my blockers that I'm working back and forth with IG on is to try and make this really good set of based data, so like glossary terms, access to data, so that all of it, so both myself and any of the community members can build on top of it on this kind of really solid base of information. So that's been kind of our biggest kind of problems at the moment in the short term. In terms of like the education resources, that is something we have spent more time on recently. I should have something out for that this week, so probably the next Swarm, I'll probably show something and start getting feedback. And that kind of takes a first kind of glance of doing this glossary, doing a guide for community advisor, proposer, the voters, doing like an aggregation of the main official resources, and trying to make an easy kind of flow to go from I know nothing to I'm executing what I want to do. Is I want to understand Catalyst, and now I'm going to be a voter, and I want to understand the steps to do that, or as a proposer, I want to understand how do I effectively do this. And it was something that I kind of noticed when I did a proposal in Fund 3. Timing wise, that proposal was a bit too early for what I wanted to work on. So working on Catalyst was kind of the next obvious step, because I kind of could see all the problems. So that's kind of the reason why I kind of attached to start working on it now. So I think next week onwards, I'd probably be messaging some people in Discord quite a lot, starting to kind of get that feedback loop and trying to kind of iterate and improve. Now we've kind of got a base of here's what we need from IOG, here's kind of starting points we can share with the community, and hopefully just keep iterating back and forth. But I'll share a link to the overview in the chat of what we added in for the proposals, just so everyone has it.
Yeah, that would be great.
And for instance, I think, as you mentioned, Mercy, I think you said something about doing like a workshop or something similar on a second day for WADA. To do a project catalyst. Yeah, it'd be great to link up on that to see.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm interested in is that once we've got this kind of good base for education resources that kind of goes through the flows and it makes sense, and we'll do that first and iterate probably in English. But the next kind of step to that is about, okay, now we've got a good process that everyone thinks like, this is a good way to learn about this. And then I can start to integrate some of the language integration. So I can go, okay, let's extract out the English, put it into a JSON file. And then I can be like, okay, let's make a translation for this language and this language. And I think there's another group that are already kind of looking at language translations. But this is something I'd be really interested in working with some other teams with. If we had a good base of like, here's some resources, and then we could just easily just do the translation, and we know it's a good kind of flow for how to learn, Project Catalyst, then I think that'd be a really good next step for some of the stuff we're working on. So it'd be great to catch up and see if there's any kind of link we can make there.
George, were you referring to Langambassadors there?
Exactly that, yeah. I think I've talked to someone in there briefly.
That was probably Rick.
I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I've not met that person yet. Kryptonian1234.
Yeah, that's Rick. It would be really wonderful.
This guy is very new to me.
It would be really great to start engaging into some of the conversations about specific deliverables and tools that would be useful for you. He and I have talked a lot about some things that we can do, but it's all been a little bit abstract. And we'd like to, and not abstract necessarily. We've talked about some real specific things, but two guys talking isn't community. And he's been having a lot of conversations in pairs, but definitely adding your voice to a consensus would be super awesome. Sorry, Maria.
Yeah.
And it's a very real problem, the language barrier.
I worried about we be dubbing information here. I think is elsewhere other website where some of these informations are there already, and we are rebuilding it. If we keep it going the way we're doing, every single fund, we're gonna have new people, new websites, a new place to gather. We need to keep everything together, if you know what I mean, like.
That's what he's talking about, is creating one central source for all the information, because we've got so many fragments going on right now that there's no one community delivered resource to get to everything. We're relying on IOG's Telegram announcements, and like he said, he's trying to create a central location for everything to be, which is very good.
Yeah.
And on that note, if you wouldn't mind responding, I think we've even chatted a little bit on Discord before, but there's the community landing page that came out of Fund 3 that was kind of started by Phil, TiVo, I think Michael, and a couple other folks been working on that. And it seems like a lot of overlap. And from what I've heard, like you guys have already been in communication, but you want to address that a little bit, because I think it speaks a lot to, are we creating like multiple central single sources, right?
Yeah, we were kind of chatting about that. I think some of the differences we had was kind of it was more of an informational thing, kind of the master landing page, whereas I wanted to make it more kind of more, so you're going to have this kind of login. So the first kind of stage was going to be like a Web 2.0 kind of login, so you could do this community list side, and then kind of start doing some of this interaction. Some of the next stuff I kind of want to work on is doing like proposal reporting. So the landing page might be a good place for information. And maybe it's the case that I just mimic that. I don't know. We're still kind of in the works. Like, there's multiple DEXs. At the moment, there's a few of us kind of approaching this in a different way, which, is like, it's nothing wrong with that. I hope, we can solve that over time. But at the moment, the kind of key difference is I think I'm going to be focusing more on things like the reporting of proposals and trying to kind of make a suite for kind of tracking how they're doing, and I'm going to be focusing more on that kind of side. And then on the community list side is just kind of helping people come together with that. So it's going to be more kind of functionality rather than informational. Educational resources is kind of the main thing I can work on. So of course there's overlap, and hopefully we just kind of mimic each other in the future, the mapping landing page. But once I'm unblocked from IOG with all the data, then I can start doing more fancy things and kind of, trying to make it easier for us to look through the history of people and projects, and then look into the future. If I want to report these things, here's my weekly update, and if you want to be like an email subscriber to that list, you can be. So I want to see all the updates on these 3 projects, and I can see the history of all their updates in this kind of single place. So it's kind of quite a kind of a fairly large project that I'm kind of going after. I think some of the things that because Phil and that kind of side are more community advisors, I kind of see their kind of more focus is more on like community advisor tool. They've already kind of done things like that, and the veteran community advisor tool, that seems to be a big focus for them. So that isn't probably something I'm probably going to work on. I think they are very well suited to do that, because they are the community of, they're all community advisors. So for instance, I'm not going to be doing anything on that side. Fund 3, I was working on something to do with like professionals and service marketplaces. And the thing I really like about working on this Project Catalyst thing is it actually kind of starts a bit of potential to actually work on that. So I was looking at how can we like decentralize LinkedIn? How can we get our reputation and take ownership of it? Project Catalyst is actually quite a good starting point for that. So let's say, I want to build this reputation in Catalyst. I have these skills and this, these services I can offer, and I'm attaching them to these proposals that I'm executing. So I start building this reputation that I could then attach to Atala Prism. This could be the start. And because you've got the people who are into blockchain, these are like kind of the best people to start this kind of project with, because they're the most passionate and the ones who are going to go through the kind of friction to use Atala Prism and start using that kind of functionality. So this is more of like a midterm thing after Atala Prism comes out. Atala Prism is something I will be spending a lot of time on. And once I can kind of migrate from a Web 2 login stuff to Atala Prism, that will be a big focus of this kind of site, to decentralize it, have it so you can integrate, kind of attach like services, skills, and kind of build a reputation and kind of look at those kind of that interesting thing. That was a kind of passion of mine. I kind of work in a services marketplace at the moment, and it's kind of broken, to say the least. So I think there's a lot of things in the long term I'd like to work on, but Project Catalyst is the perfect catalyst to kind of get to that. Is that and hopefully I think I need to do another catch up with Maria. We've already done a interview before, but this is a good time to say we should do another one probably the next few weeks when I have something more to show. So I'll give you a message soon on that, Maria.
Yeah, no problem. Just reach out to me on Telegram or tweet, and I'll be happy to have you on the show.
Any other questions for George and Jakob?
Oh, I just have a comment that maybe somebody should start thinking about an AI solution to sort of pull together all these information on all these different websites.
Yeah. I think once I've made this first version of the education process, I think I'll probably re-loop back with Phil and with everyone and see if we could just have an open repo where it is literally just like a JSON file format of different languages. Then we could all start kind of having definitions and certain like flows of information where we could all just base it off that, and then we can pull it into our own sites from it. That is going to be a suggestion I think I'm going to make in the next few weeks as I kind of make the first version. And I kind of want to go a bit back and forth with IOG. So I would really like just to have this kind of like for them to initially make like kind of a glossary and go through these terms so we can have like a concrete starting point that then they kind of release into the community. So then we've kind of got this good base. This is a good base of like what everything means, and there's less confusion. People that aren't using challenge or campaign, and there's lots of like it needs to be like an official kind of starting point, and then we can start building on this, layering on top of it, and making these kind of here's an explanation for this and this and this, and hopefully in an ideal scenario we have just an open source repo where we all just pull that in and just build on top of it and welcome a community on. Here's our kind of translated, in each translation, base information that all of us can use to kind of describe this is what's going on in Project Catalyst. So that's an idea. That's what I'd like to happen, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Sounds great.
All right, super. I think up next we've got Mike McNulty.
Yeah, thanks, Randall. So what I wanted to share is a little bit about what I've been kind of thinking about for where Swarm might be headed. So obviously we have lots of great conversations in here, and we've been thinking about as this continues to develop and we have kind of this collaborative engagement onboarding engine, what can we start to do with that? And I've been thinking about this stuff just kind of on my own, writing things down. And what I'd really love to do is just make sure that everybody in Swarm is kind of participating and included in the decision making for kind of where this thing might go. And kind of in the process where I'd like to see it go is kind of turning into something like a community kind of decision-making engine. Like one thought that I jotted down as George was speaking, I think Maria made the point of, it's great you're engaging with lots of people, but how do we engage with the community more broadly? How do we get people in? And I put down a sticky, that maybe the conversations like this can be where some of that community curation and community input comes from. And that relates to, so I dropped a slide in here, just trying to put like a couple early thoughts together. And kind of thinking here is, could we turn something like these swarm conversations into something that looks like distributed decision making? And so if we think about right now, we have a lot of proposers coming together and having a conversation. We've got CAs are in another group having conversations. How do we start to bring these different tracks together and have these conversations all be building upon each other and actually leading to meaningful output and kind of decisions? And so the tagline here is something like guided training meets collaborative idea refinement, culminating in real-time assessments of swarm-refined proposals by swarm-trained CAs. And so what that looks like is, could we start to have some kind of continuity across these sessions where we have something like this, where we have a round table of engagement, we're sharing ideas, we're giving each other feedback, and then have that go through maybe some other steps, and it ends up where we bring these different parallel tracks together with the CA and proposer conversations. And now, George and Jakob have maybe been having conversations with groups for a couple weeks, and then they go into a circle where a bunch of community advisors and veteran community advisors that have all been kind of working and training and learning together, they all come into one group. And then we have this proposal that, again, has been kind of refined through the swarm, meets this group of CAs that have been trained through the swarm, and we bring all those together and see if we can, have some more distributed decision-making, more collaboration behind what actually makes it into idea scale. And kind of the problem statement that I've tried to anchor on here is one of feedback loops. So right now, feedback comes too late for action, and it's one-way channels. If we think about proposers, I get the assessments feedback, but it's anonymous. I can't engage with the people providing that feedback. It comes too late for me to actually make any changes. That's been a huge pain point. And the feedback cycle is what, like 2 months from idea submission to actually having that feedback to maybe act on. And I mean, and the same thing on the CA side. You're stumbling through this self-guided process of trying to find the documentation. So super excited we've got these different efforts to pull that all together. Even more than that, as you're doing your assessments, you don't have peers to kind of like check your work with. There are no channels to collaborate with each other. We don't necessarily have these standards that are consistent across the way we're reviewing things. And there's some element of feedback in like the VCA review, but again, it's anonymous. I can't engage with the veterans give me that feedback. And do these feedback loops actually, we can acknowledge they're slow, they're one way, and really, do they really amount to kind of meaningful action from them?
I don't think they're beneficial, and I think doing it ahead of time, like you're saying, is much more efficient. Would be much more efficient.
Those interactions are very transactional, and that doesn't create a lot of value. I mean, community and interactions are really the great value. The artifacts that we create out of those look like the product, but I say the product is the connections, the interactions, the shared vision that it creates in the people's minds.
I couldn't have said it any better myself, Randall, because I mean, the concrete output of this, right, is you have a proposal. But I think what you said is really what makes this so powerful, is that you have kind of cohorts of CAs coming together, building trust together, having these common standards of excellence, going through this process of having the proposers talking to each other. You can find those points of shared vision. You can find those collaborators that want to work together. Like we've even been hearing in this conversation, that with what Maria's working on, with George and Jakob we're working on, what Drake's working on, right? Everybody on this call, we've identified some opportunities for collaboration. And what if we could actually make that part of the proposal process itself, right? So having it be, obviously this would sit outside of the Catalyst process per se, but what if we could create this engine where it's just part of making your proposal is finding collaborators, sharing that vision. I think that's something that's so much lacking today, especially in idea scale. If I want to find collaborators, right, am I going to read through 400 proposals? Probably not. I'm just going to put my ideas down on paper and throw it out there and see what happens. And that's why we have today, the number of proposers is increasing so much more quickly than the number of CAs. There's high turnover in CAs. I don't actually have the numbers, but I tried to. What was that, Randall?
Overlap between proposals.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That, and you can't fully understand people's entire vision from a paragraph and a half sometimes.
Absolutely, yeah. I really appreciated hearing more from George on kind of the distinction between the two landing page sites, right? Like I've seen both their proposals. We've even had a little bit of conversation on Discord, but it wasn't until I got that like long form conversation, you know, straight from George's mouth about like, oh, cool, I see the difference. I see the value and the impact. And it's just something that's so much lacking today on both sides. And if we could address this on the proposer side, address it on the CA side, and then maybe have them all come together in this kind of like collaborative training incubator. Man, I think it might have even come up today. Someone said the idea that like Pixar has of like the ugly baby, you know, like sometimes the greatest ideas can start from these kernels of like not very well articulated, or maybe some of the pieces are wrong, but having a place for these ideas to grow and having community input on these things, right? I think the closest thing we've had to that is a zombie channel in the Discord, where I think there were a couple channels dedicated to maybe creating like an accelerator and incubator, but I've never seen anything that meaningful come out of there. I mean, it's the same as like the dev for hire tag. Who's actually been able to build a team because they pinged dev for hire, right? It takes the engagement, the conversation. So I'll cut it off there. I don't have to drain 100% of everything on here. But been loving the input so far. I guess any other questions, reactions, or comments on just kind of
I have a question. I really like the idea that you have, Mike. And so I was wondering, doesn't IOG or something have this kind of incubator program as well? So I'm not sure about that, or this accelerator program. I just heard
do they?
That is Catalyst. It's the accelerator program. But this is
no. It's certain like a certain stuff for proposals. Or aren't they setting something up?
Like partners, the Alpha. Was it the Alpha Pioneers program or something like that? It's for expanding partnerships with proposals. I did hear mention of it. I know what he's talking about.
Okay, so is that already a thing, or is that just something that is in development right now?
Something that's to be rolled out, I believe.
Okay. And so what I was thinking is, are you thinking about making a proposal into that direction to make something out of that? Or, and the other part is, you briefly mentioned or touched upon the point as well, is if, I mean, that could be part of really Project Catalyst and idea scale to have this rather than just as an option through a Swarm. So that would be
what IOG is offering.
Right?
What IOG is offering is on the other side of the proposal line. This is going to be on this side of the proposal line. That's on the cohort side. You're not getting that access to the IOG Alpha Pioneers or whatever without being already granted money for the proposal.
Okay, so after funding, right?
Yeah, so great insight. I'm glad you made that connection, Jacob. It's definitely good to know what else is out there. And Drake, also thanks for having that context of where it kind of fits, because I would definitely see this as being that community-driven, taking it from just the kernel of an idea, getting everybody together to really build it up together, find those collaborators, those people that have the shared vision, get it to that point of funding, and then this Alpha Pioneers program sounds like can be that incubator to continue to refine and build on those ideas. And so this would be kind of like the pre-funding version of something like that, perhaps.
It almost seems like what you're envisioning here is a slightly enhanced version of what the Swarm is already.
Exactly.
Brought
it was
into Catalyst as like a primary pathway for proposals to become actionable and well rated.
Yeah, and a couple points to respond there too on the community side and Catalyst and Swarm. So it was the the initial thinking came from a place of, okay, what is Swarm actually going to turn into? How do we turn these conversations into action and start to drive towards outcomes together? And as far as the community, I mean, the intention has always been that Swarm is this community-driven, community-owned thing. And something that is on my mind right now that I haven't actually been able to share too widely and have some conversations on is we've built up this Swarm experiment and we've found some learnings. Is it maybe time to actually take this back into, you know, the broader Catalyst community as a whole? Can we actually start to implement some of these things out of the, you know, the regular old Catalyst Discord server instead of the smaller Swarm server? We started to play around with these ideas, but you know, again, it was always intended to be a community tool owned and driven by the community. Is it time to bring this back in? And maybe speaking to some of the things that George and Jakob are doing of having those well-defined paths, having these places to go, the resources to use, could this somehow be just like a defined path within the regular Catalyst community that's driven and continues to be owned and refined by not me, not you know, the people that are helping to organize Swarm right now, but just the community who really ultimately we want the Swarm to be, right?
I mean, I absolutely agree, but if we do it this early in the process, we're going to get a barrage of everybody. And I think keeping this
that's something to keep in mind for sure.
At the moment, I mean, I'm just opinion. I mean,
what on the insight sharing, I think one of the big problems of idea scale is it's very ephemeral. Like we just kind of lose it each time. So like Swarm sessions is a really good kind of just like we see each other, we can talk. It's very engaging, but then there's kind of like this kind of longer form where we could just kind of keep that kind of data. So I think in the education resources list I've got, is like literally the first thing in ideation is, as well as some of the guides and stuff, is Catalyst Swarm. If you want to collaborate and talk about your ideas before or during, like whilst you're making a proposal, instantly it's linked in there. I think one of those next steps as well as that is we kind of have this kind of like more long lasting kind of insight sharing, because idea scale is not very good for kind of looking back on like this continued discussion of this topic on NFTs or this or that. So there's something that I don't think I would be making that solution, but we could use something else, whatever it is. You know, I think something with Ardagov have already made. They made a little network thing. That could work. So they've got like posts and topics and stuff like that. But having those kind of two things where you can have a long form and then just kind of chatting Swarm sessions, however you want to deliver it and share it, so people can kind of more preemptively share ideas and kind of help this kind of collaboration, community lists, all these different things. Because I think, yeah, like you said, the big problems of just trying to bring people together before they kind of get straight away to let's make a proposal, let's, you know, or like I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, like, you know, I don't know how to engage. There's slowly things I think popping up. I think hopefully we can get like a nice wrapper on it.
Put them all together.
And it's, I think I see signs of it coming together, but yeah, it's early days.
Yeah, and two things to quickly respond there too. One, kind of the engagement piece here in the personal connection. I made the point that, you know, prior to getting involved with Swarm and having this weekly place to come and meet and discuss ideas, right? It was just this roller coaster that was totally tied to the fund lifecycle, where we've got a couple weeks of like, oh, it's just all proposer, and then it's, oh, assessments, and then there's like this weird 4-week gap where there's like kind of conversations going on. What are we all doing, right? And so part of the thinking here is how can we just like smoothen out that engagement, and whenever you come in, there are ideas to discuss, there are things to do. And then on the insight sharing thing, specifically in idea scale, we've actually been having some conversations about trying to get some APIs to pull the insight sharing out of idea scale, because you're right, there's lots of great ideas and problems that are identified and they just sit there. So can we pull those out of idea scale and then bring them into a Swarm setting where we have, you know, a group of 5, 10, 15 people just looking at past insights and trying to see, okay, which ones are still being unaddressed? What can we actually turn some of this into action? So just wanted to connect on those two threads. But I'm sorry, I think I cut someone off who was about to try to jump in there.
I've got some good news.
Yeah, I wanted to.
I've got some good news on that. Just to quickly add to that, I've actually already made the wrapper for Idea Scale. There's a group of us who are chatting about it and trying to get access to it. So I've made that wrapper, and it needs to be a bit back and forth with IOG, making sure it's sanitized and data safe, and there's no emails in it and email hashes, because there's email hashes in there for some reason. But hopefully, once that's deployed, we're all going to have the same access of IOG host it, and then we can just use this endpoint. So hopefully this insight sharing stuff and all the other stuff is going to be available soon, which would be absolutely great for all of us, because then we can just start, you know, actually trying to kind of bring this glue together and stop being, you know, refined from idea scale.
I love it.
So soon.
I just wanted to mention a quick thought that I had. I mean, I think this sounds so great, and there lies so much potential in it. And I think this kind of engagement through the CAs who spare kind of the proposals and refine it in a kind of ongoing feedback loop could lead to something as a signature that is on then at the end on the proposals, that you can see, okay, this went already through the swarm refinement process. And this is then also a data stem that can be used then for project tracking. And my hypothesis would be that these kind of swarm refined proposals have a higher chance of A, being funded, and B, of long-term success, because they are engaged in the community. They have more feedback. They're constantly improving it and looking at it, and they got more input, and because they're not in their own bubble. And then I was thinking of what Filip said before with their kind of NFT stuff that could be also then linked to that, right? That you have this swarm NFT or something like that. But
Nice.
I love it. Have totally had the thought of, can we have like a swarm approved badge that goes in idea scale? And I love that thought of, can we actually have some like scientific rigor and use that to actually start having some research around, here's the population of swarm approved proposals, here's the population overall, and is there a measurable difference across whether it's assessment ratings, or it's number of assessments, or it's the actual funding overall. That's a great insight. I love that. And
or overall community understanding. Sorry.
No, go ahead, jump in.
I was saying, and overall community understanding of the proposal, because a lot of times people are voting on things they're not entirely certain what it is. But
Absolutely.
if they go through this process, and especially if we record it, they can go back and look. And if they really want to know about that project, they'll have it.
I like this. Good. That's like an interesting feedback loop. I'm gonna think about that.
Good. I love it. I love like all the different ideas coming together here. Like, I wouldn't have like ever made that connection, and to hear like George already working on like the APIs and stuff, and like bringing in NFTs is another thing that I've been thinking about. This is like way outside my wheelhouse. I'm probably gonna start sounding real stupid here for a second, but some different NFT use cases I've been kicking around with some others is, can we have like a proof of participation mechanism to show, maybe on like a session by session basis. And then if anybody's familiar with like the work that Playermint is doing and mining PMX based on gameplay performance, could we do something similar with like a meritocratic system based on the outcomes of Swarm that are then tied to mining a Swarm governance token based on your participation in things? Or could that proof of participation be tied to the recordings themselves, such that the 10 people on this call, we all have a right to buy into a minted NFT for the recording of this session that could then be dispersed and monetized in some way, or just stored, and we just have that ownership of our own data and our experience on this call. So I think there are like some really cool NFT use cases like down the line that I'd love to explore. And if anybody wants to riff on that, that's like something that gets me excited. But
watch for the NFT auction for this recording right now. Do your search. We don't have it yet, but do your search that later.
Yeah, all of that can happen, and it's starting right here, right now.
That's interesting. I love that. I love that idea.
I have a question about NFTs. Is it possible? Because right now NFTs are tradable and things like that, but I heard a lot of use cases where we want them to lock to a wallet and stay there, like proof of participation or something like that. Is it possible to lock it to a wallet so you can't actually transfer it away? Because that would open up a whole bunch of use cases where you could have proof of participation, proof of all sorts of stuff that accumulates over time that you can't purchase or give away or trade because it's actually yours. And that would make it really meaningful. But I don't know if that's possible technologically right now with Cardano.
If it's held in a
I think a wallet mod could possibly do it. I wouldn't say for certain.
You should be able to hold in a contract that governs whether it can be transferred, and when it's in that contract, it still points to you as the account holder of it, and then maybe it can provide you a signature that you can take somewhere else, like we were talking about near the beginning of the call.
That alone might be a useful project for someone to work on to figure out how that works.
Yeah, for sure.
But also like NFTs as like role badges. So as you participate and get more trust in the thing, there's a autonomous system that says, okay, you have enough karma that now you're a moderator and you get that NFT badge, and that unlocks moderator participation kind of functionality automatically. And there's so much stuff you can do with these NFTs that are really, I think, going to be pretty amazing once smart contracts truly launch on the system.
Yeah, this is something, if I continue doing what I'm doing, it's something I have to think about, because at the moment I was going to have it so it's going to be a Web 2.0 kind of standard. I kind of know you should be a moderator, you're a moderator, as maybe step one. But I think like this kind of path of how can we kind of do proof of participation, all these kind of NFTs, and be like, this badge, so you have a nice visual way, like it's like they own that badge, their account owns that badge, this means, and everyone knows that badge means they've attended 100 hours of Swarm or something like that, so they're highly engaged, all those kind of things. I think super cool. I don't know how hard it would be right now, but down the line I think that's going to be super cool to look into.
Well, it looks like we're homing in on the end of our proposals to discuss, so I'm going to stop the share, and then we can continue any kind of conversation that we want to have before we wrap up and come back to the center if they haven't finished the retrospective in the main channel.
Do you want me to go back and look? I'll be right back. You can see real quick.
George, I would love to hear a little bit about how you arrived here. Not here in this room today, but like just in general, how did you arrive at in Cardano?
In Cardano, I think it would have probably been around August. I knew about Cardano back in like 2017 hype time and loved them then, but I was always a bit critical. It's like you've got like nothing. There's a lot of bad press on the wallets and like the implementation at that time, and I read about that. And then as soon as we kind of got to near the proof of stake time this year, everything, my whole opinion changed, and I went back through all the kind of videos and started, they can really implement, and they can do the papers, and they can implement, and that's when I just suddenly went, everything else went off, and yeah, everything I do is basically to be with Cardano since around that time. As soon as I went down the rabbit hole, then I was like, yeah, this makes so much sense. Like, you know, everything's actually coming together. They've really actually proven they can do it, and they're starting to keep the schedule. And I keep seeing more promise of ETH2, and like, yeah. After that, then it was just continuation. A few months after that, I was looking at my own idea with things like professional identity. I work at a services marketplace. And I went down that rabbit hole of trying to look into identity, looking at all the wallets. So there's some resources I've got. I'll share the site. So I looked at the self-sovereign identity for a long time, for a few months, trying to work out whether there was anything I could work on there. What I realized is I was too early for that race, and you wouldn't have like a professional wallet. It would just be another verifiable credential that gets added to your normal personal one. And then once I kind of came to the end of that kind of realization, I saw all the stuff that could happen in Catalyst and how much we can do here. And that's what kind of led me to this part. So now, you know, I think there's so much work that can be done here to improve it, that for the time it gets done, then the timing might be right for me to start, you know, working in all this other stuff I was looking at and trying to help improve how we work with each other, making it more equitable, all that kind of side of it that I was originally kind of interested in based on all of my past of seeing what's wrong in that industry. So yeah, a windy up and down of trying to find something that works at the moment, but I think this is the right thing to be working on right now.
I think so too. Hi, Asaf. I would love to hear a little bit about you.
Well, first of all, hello.
Hello.
Dudi and Eddie, they went out of the conversation. We were part of a team of 4 to 6 guys and 2 girls, working on ISR pool. It's we're like trying to be an official Israeli pool, if you can say.
Stake pool.
We all from Israel, so I hope my English will come out just fine in this conversation.
Good.
Basically, we have a community of like 2.5K people, I guess, on Facebook and Telegram and Discord and all these kinds of things. We're trying to break the language barrier and translate all the content, especially for Hebrew.
Yeah.
Like I did two YouTube videos until now. We were trying to get the ambassador role. We were kind of close last time, as I understood from Dudy. He's the SPO, and basically we're trying to get to that position, like getting official. He told me, to be honest, he told me while we were in the conversation, like, tell them. But I wasn't sure if it's correct to say while you all guys are proposing stuff, you know, like that are more, how do you say it, connected to the main thing that you were all talking about.
Now you're
I
connected.
feel like I'm coming from outside of the box into something that I'm not sure if it's 100% connected to it.
I think in a reputation-based system, it is relative to establish yourself in the proposer circle, at least with
You can connect,
people knowing who
you
you
can
are.
always
Yeah.
connect the dots. That's okay. But I wasn't sure if it's true to, you know, like jump out and start talking about it. So basically, that's what we're trying to do, to get official.
When you say
If we
official,
will do it, what?
When you say official, are you talking about with IOG?
The ambassador role from Cardano.
From Cardano, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because they have the role where you get, I'm not sure if to say rewarded, but you get something out of it. Like if I'm gonna create content and upload the YouTube videos, it wouldn't just take some of my time. It will give me something back.
I'm pretty sure they're redefining the ambassador whole situation. I believe I heard some mention of it. I'm not too
And this
sure.
is separate from the Langbassadors initiative that Kryptonian1234 has been working on. Yes?
I think this is the Cardano Foundation, right? The official ambassador program.
Cardano Foundation.
Yeah,
okay.
and Maria, who was on here a little bit ago, she mentioned that she's an ambassador, so she might be a good person to link up with just to learn more about like what that process has been like, what kind of support they actually provide once you are like on the other side. Definitely recommend getting in touch with her.
Okay, I will tell the guys to check that out. She's also on the Discord of the Catalyst Forum.
Yeah, I think so. Maria Carmo, I want to say her handle is just her name, but if anybody knows more specifically how to get in touch, or even
on Twitter, it's at Maria Carmo 369.
There you
go. You guys know each other well.
I've got a Telegram as well.
Jacob.
A Telegram in the
Asaf, are there many are there community meetings or something like that in Israel? So how well connected are the people
I'll tell you
in
what,
Israel? I mean, it's a small country, so
yeah. We first of all, crypto in Israel is, I think it's not so clear to everybody. Like a lot of people know about it, but are afraid to get into it. I believe each and every one of us had his own barrier. So people in Israel have theirs. And about meetings, we didn't do any because COVID-19, we just starting to pass here in Israel. I'm not sure what is happening in other countries. The situation starts to be better, so we are planning to do so. We also need to think what will be the content that we will transfer to people in these meetings. But we are thinking about it. For now, we have a cool WhatsApp group of, it's always full. Like we take out people that aren't responding for 2 weeks. It's always getting full. And we talked a lot about Cardano over there. Great communication. People start to talk with each other, on private chats also. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice.
That's cool. When I once lived in Israel and there were the first Bitcoin people I got to know who went abroad for mining. They had their own mining facilities, and so it was really cool.
So you've been here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Believe it
that's
or
cool.
not, ADA was my very first cryptocurrency. I came here for my love of AI, not crypto.
Same here. I mean, not AI. I mean ADA first. I'm scared of crap about AI.
Don't be.
Mike, I would love to hear how you came to Cardano.
I feel like everybody's got a pretty sweet crypto origin story. Mine is maybe pretty benign. I just had a friend that gets really excited whenever he gets on one of those ideas. Everyone here probably has that friend where they often start yelling even though they don't mean to, just because they're just so excited and they just want to tell you about all their ideas. And so he was putting the crypto bug in my ear for a long time, and until January of this year, I thought that every token was just like a Bitcoin like copy, right? I thought it's just different variations of the same thing. And once I finally took his advice, I went down the rabbit hole a little bit. I was like, oh wow, like there are like use cases for all these different tokens. They're building blocks to create this entirely new infrastructure. The whole Web3 idea. And it was a short trip from there to getting into the different use cases, finding Cardano. Really loved some of the old videos I hear repeated over and over again. The 2016 TED Talk, the 2018 Goals for Africa at the London School of Economics.
Whiteboard, baby.
Whiteboard. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Those are some of the big ones. And then I was for a while trying to learn about all the different tokens, keeping up with it, and slowly the focus just kept on narrowing and narrowing till I was just kind of following ADA and Cardano. I don't even know how I got into Catalyst in the first place, and what really kind of tipped it over was around the time that I came in, lurking for like a week or so, feeling like I don't know, I'm not technical, I don't know crypto. And at the tail end of Fund 3, Stephen Aldrich was like, hey, we're trying to put a retro together. Does anybody know any facilitators out there? And I was like, hey, I don't know what I can contribute around here, but I facilitate meetings for a lot of my day job. I facilitated the first community retro. That kind of grew into something that spurred some different action. Like a couple different things came out of there, and with that, just started feeling more comfortable sharing my ideas and getting involved. And from there, it's just been further and further down the rabbit hole. So it's funny. This is like my very first foray into crypto in general. First like time being in an internet community. Period. It's been a fun ride, and it's interesting to
Thanks,
just hear
Mercy.
everybody else is like such long time like crypto diehards and have like these cool origin stories. But I just like fell down the rabbit hole a couple months ago, and here I am. I'm a management consultant by day. I work for a big firm that loans me out to other big firms. It pays the bills. I've picked up some good skills along the way, but part of the reason why I'm here is this is just like so much more fun and more meaningful
That
work.
you can share those skills with us.
Absolutely.
We
I would
appreciate you for
love
it.
I would love to start building up our our pool of facilitators and people that are like taking on the role that like Randall has been playing, and helping to drive and run these circles. It's an art and a science that I never really appreciated until I was in it. But yeah, like the facilitating skill set is definitely something that I would love to share more broadly in the community. And I'm on a lot of different threads, thinking about a lot of different things, but that's one thing on my mind is I would love to have like a facilitator mentor program or something within Swarm is like one idea I have on the back burner.
Nice.
There's so much potential for growth in this ecosystem. This whole space has more growth potential than, I wouldn't say AI, but for AI to be able to change the world of finance and the way things work as a whole.
Lots of wide open in both areas, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're just enabling so much more for each other. AI opens up doors for crypto, crypto opens up doors for AI.
Thanks for your note-taking prowess. It's great to see those notes arriving, and the more people we have doing that, the more fluid the whole conversation seems to feel. I found myself doing more than a little bit of just tending to the video and just like I couldn't take quite as many notes as I would have liked to. So thanks for that help.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. And
Randall,
that just speaks to. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Jacob's
just
gonna turn
finish
it
that
around.
point. But I wanted to ask Randall. So you asked all of us the questions how we got into crypto. So now you got to share, I guess, your story a bit. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Or
well,
not crypto, but ADA, right?
Yeah, ADA was the first coin I bought. I had I've been looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum a few years back, and this was after they had climbed and then dived. And I said to myself, if I was more confident, I would totally buy some of that, and I totally should, because I would have been literally 10x. But I didn't do that, and here I am a few years later, and I feel a little bit more confident. And one of the reasons I didn't feel so confident in Ethereum was that it's smart contract language. I looked at it and said, this looks procedural. It looks entirely too easy to accidentally write a wrong contract that's going to lose all kinds of money. And I can't blame that intuition on any foresight per se. Like the DAO hack had already happened, and when I looked at the language, I said, no, this needs to be lambda calculus. And I didn't realize that Cardano was already on that path. But fast forward, I had a friend just recently, maybe the last 6 months, who made me aware of Cardano. And well, long story short, the rest is history.
And history's to come.
Well, we'll see what history becomes.
Can't get a purer starting story than that. First coin ADA. I'm not that pure.
I don't know about pure.
No, we don't want that story. You're done. You did it. Perfect job.
Leave bad enough alone.
Guys, I'll have to say thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys ready to head back to the main room?
Yeah, sounds
I'm
good.
gonna go. I'm gonna leave the
Thanks
meeting.
for joining us, Asaf.
I have more work here. I'm a math teacher, so I'm gonna have to check all kinds of exam here
before sleeping.
That's my real job. So have a good one, and thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.
Nice meeting.
Lots of fun.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise.